reading side by side in the diner, right? Yeah. What do you think, Mort? Someone else? Come on, engage. That guy.
Could you explain, since you're talking about scripts, could you kind of explain what the script entails, or how much you kind of allocate to each panel, or how? I don't know. I've never seen a script, so if you could just describe it.
So on a white piece of paper.
This is why people think you're an asshole. Because you take a serious question from a reasonably serious guy that can be engaged with in a clever way, and you shit all over it. Be nice to this guy. Answer him seriously. Take him seriously in his question. You can be clever, but not an asshole. I'm trying to be there.
It's a white piece of paper. No, when I write a script, I like to think of it as almost like a movie script. You have to give all the visual information. You can't assume the reader will understand what you're trying to say. You have to, especially when I start a new scene where it takes place in like a new environment, I try to get very descriptive of the environment, trying to set the mood to give the artist an idea what the whole area, the place, the setting looks like. The more information I give, the more hopefully they will follow it. But sometimes, sometimes I give kind of a vague thing because there's nothing really to write. Where is this from?
Today.
Really?
Don't you love living in the fucking modern world?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Yeah. So like the scene, like if it takes, so dark, wooded area, and I'll throw in a couple of descriptions. I'm gonna go beyond that, for generic stuff like that. But if you're in a room where you actually have a highly detailed image in mind, I will try to describe everything in the scene. And sometimes if I have the detail that I really want to tell, I will actually sometimes give the how the people are standing, the camera angle and all that for dramatic mood effects and stuff like that. But mostly I just, I don't go into that much detail. I just have, they're standing side by side, person one, with their dialogue. And unless there's some really emotional state that I want to describe, I would actually, with the person's name, I would parentheses, he's agitated, he's looking glum or whatever, stuff like that. It's basically the more information that you give, the more the artist can work with.
I describe the size and the shape of every panel.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Every panel.
I never read a script like that before.
That's because you're working with assholes. The size and the shape of the panel is directly related to the amount of action, how the action is played out of the panel.
Do you actually?
Yes, I do. Across the page in width, 1/3 the page in height. Across the page in width, 1/4 the page in height. I never do a panel that's narrower than 1/4 of a page, because when you do 1/5 of the page, you're dealing with a narrow slot that's like a mail slot, and it offers you no opportunity for designer structure. It's too narrow and too thin.
Are you the only artist that does that?
I have no clue. I don't really give a shit about anybody but myself. I believe that, and I describe, I'm a great believer in using foreground elements to frame shape. I come out of I'm a big theater fan, and I will frequently describe action for example, if I'm doing an establishing shot, I will just say this is an establishing shot of New York City. I tell the time of day, and the general, what I'm looking for. Are we favoring a hotel or a high-rise building or something else? In figure elements, I will explain that I want a 2-figure full shot. So that if you're talking about a 2-figure full shot, if it needs background or it's a vignette, a 2-figure medium close-up, in which one character will frame another, to define the fact that the framed character is the important element of the picture, because the foreground character can be an abstraction by the way it's cropped to focus on that second element, a close-up. And I describe the expressions on those faces because my feeling is it's my job as a writer to let the artist know, even if the artist is me, what I'm supposed to be reacting to, what the character is supposed to be feeling like. There used to be an artist in my generation who couldn't draw people who did anything but smile. and he did beautiful smiles. He had a phenomenal grasp of rendering, the way the cheeks creased in a grin, and his teeth and everything else.
Is it the creator of the Joker?
No, I'm very serious. But he can never do anything else. So that his characters acted, but only one particular way. One of the slams that I get on my work is that my heroes all look alike. Like it's an accident. You know, like, oh Jesus, I didn't mean to do that. Well, I fucking mean to do it every time I do it. What no one seems to notice is that that hero, who looks exactly like all the other heroes I draw, is surrounded by a vast, rich, evolved cast of characters, you know, who are there to support this cast.
Actually, do you, when you draw your hero, do you have like an actor or a person in mind when you?
It's an amalgam of Henry Fonda, William Holden, and James Garner. Because those are the three guys who, for me, in my boyhood, represented the concept of American decency. Seriously.
I can see James
Yeah,
Garner.
and that's true. I mean, and despite the fact that Henry Fonda was obviously one of the best actors of his generation, because apparently he was a total dick, but he really did represent American decency, and William Holden as well. I mean, let's not forget. You look at Holden from Golden Boy to Sunset Boulevard, Stalag 17,
Yeah.
and then he dies by falling drunk and bleeding to death after hitting his head on a coffee table. And James Garner is the archetype of my boyhood. And I subscribe to the Neil Simon theory, which is think Yiddish, go British. My heroes are all Jewish, but they look very waspic. And that's a very conscious choice. And I surround these characters with a broad range of characters. I'm not a Betty and Veronica guy. Let's face it, Betty and Veronica are the same dame. But comic book artists tend to have tropish characters. If I'm drawing a period character, I want to make a woman who was living in 1931 be beautiful by the standards of 1931. It's a hard thing to do, and I feel it's a challenge I try to commit to. So that script, for me, is an extremely diagrammatic piece of work. Size, shape, panel. Yes, young woman.
So I'm fascinated by
Stand
what
up.
you're saying.
They need to hear you as well.
So I'm fascinated by what you're saying, but I feel like given your personality, if
Which I have none. I'm very good. I'm the blandest motherfucker you'll ever meet.
It's true. It's true.
if someone gave you a very specific pictorial script that you are giving another writer, I feel like
That
you
I,
would
that
be
I as
very
an art. No,
insulted.
start that sentence again. Say it again.
I feel like, so you're giving these very specific, very dictatorial scripts to
Dictatorial?
Well, you're dictating very specific things all throughout, very clearly, very finite detail, to your artist.
Yes.
But I feel like if a writer gave that kind of script to you, you'd be very insulted because
No.
I think you don't think that takes
Not
away
at all. No.
the artistry and reaches the artist to
Not
express.
in the least bit. No, you're wrong. Because my feeling is I feel it's the writer's responsibility to understand that real estate. What that script I just described demonstrates an understanding of that real estate. The real estate issue is much more important than what is chosen to draw. It really is. I cannot debate you how important that idea is.
But you're dictating the real estate.
Pardon me?
But you're
No, I'm
dictating
not.
the size
I'm not.
of
I'm
the
dictating. I'm dictating the devisers of the real estate.
Okay.
Okay. And what Frank said something very, very, very specific and very cogent and very telling, which is how many times does he find himself handed a script in which a writer gives him an action and two actions, three actions in a single panel?
Sure.
That demonstrates a complete dearth of understanding of the non-kinetic, non-plastic nature of comics. Comics is a static medium. The only movement we have is the implication of movement from left to right, because we are, after all, a Western culture. We work from left to right. In the context of a comic book panel, the left side represents home and the right side represents the world. Trust me. And when you show a character in motion from left to right, which is what you should do, never from right to left. If you show a character in motion from left to right, he should be as close as he can be to the right as he can, because otherwise he hasn't started walking. Dumbasses, they just don't get it. You were first. You gonna throw it to him? What a guy! What a guy! All right, stand up.
Since you said there's been a focus trend on writers in the comic industry, I was thinking, do you think there's ever going to be a paradigm shift back on the artist, as well as, since you've done shows obviously around the world, how art is viewed in other countries outside the U.S.
Well,
in your experience?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like, basically what happened, it did happen. I mean, in the 80s, it was kind of writers heavy kind of place, and then
that's not really true.
well, and then with the Alan Moore and all those guys, they came
There was
in.
also like guys like Frank and me
Yeah.
who were cartoonists.
And then so there was like a big swing where artists was favored. That's what Image happened, and then it basically swung back to the writers, and I think it will eventually swing back to the artists, or hopefully it will swing back into the middle.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong. No, I think what the factors involved in the reason for this alpha statement. You'll hear this again tomorrow. Those of you who are bored now, leave and come back tomorrow. One, it starts with the 90s. It starts with that utterly non-literary, non-narrative based, trading card junk that was comics in the 90s. And then it's picked up by two really important factors. One, I believe that the representation and management class who saw the main chance in the relationship of comic book as IP in selling it to television and movies identified the fact that it was in their best interest to make the writer the talent focus and to dismiss the artist, as I said earlier, an unfortunately necessary parasitic adjunct. I get up every morning very early, and the first thing I do, I get up after I've done my morning meditation and committed myself to being vertical and alive that day. I read the New York Times, then I read Deadline Hollywood, which is just the trash sheet of Hollywood. And at least twice a week, another comic book is acknowledged as being optioned by this schmuck and that schmuck. Hollywood is, as we all know, the guys who used to beat us up in high school because we like comics, now making money off our fucking asses. You think I'm kidding? Again, one of those things that I say that you think I was joking, but it's true. At any rate, every fucking time a comic book is identified as by the writer, if the artist's name is mentioned, it's usually in the third or fourth paragraph, if at all. And the artist, the writer, if interviewed, if that person acknowledges the existence of the artist, it's in a proprietary way, as in my artist. Excuse me. I'm nobody's. And I become an annoying nuisance on this thing, as I indicate in the comments line. Oh, one more fucking comic book that managed to draw itself. How amazing is that? It's a fucking miracle. But they've won. They have succeeded in creating this atmosphere and this environment. And the third thing, and this is going to be the insulting part of the conversation, is that as a readership, comic books have as YA fiction has become an acceptable form for adults to read, what the fuck? As you people read Harry Potter and Mockingjay and all this other crap as if it's real, as if it's actually worth reading, as opposed to something for a 12-year-old boy to give to his 13-year-old girlfriend.
I like it.
You give the lie to the smart agent. We both know this.
Yeah, I'm the bell curve destroyer.
You definitely rack it, babe. I know Jews like that, so it's okay. It works out good. So you guys have, who's reserved? Oh, it was reserved for you guys? Okay, good. So you have allowed the quality of the material to diminish themselves because your standards are lower. You're willing to accept shit. I've seen some of the shit you read. What the fuck?
Way to win the audience, dude.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, but they're not paying attention to it, so I can say whatever I want. Robert had his hand up first.
Isn't it true, though, that there are some movies that draw a lot of the cinematography directly from the artwork?
And it doesn't do shit for us. None of that trickles down to us. We are. Look, here's the deal.
But
what?
Everyone who would see a movie that's directly referencing a particular type of art knows who that artist is.
No, they don't. You are delusional. The truth of the matter is most well, you're alone. There are only 250,000 people in the United States who buy all the comic books produced here. 250,000 people. That's it. The civilian world has no idea you exist. They think you're all dressed like assholes and showing one entourage. They don't know this is an invisible world. This is more invisible than stamp collecting. Trust me, okay? The only reason these places attract the kind of cosplay schmucks that show up is that they saw it on fucking Entourage and there was an opportunity to dress up like an asshole and act up with your friends. They're not enthusiasts here. The number of enthusiasts compared to the attendees at these conventions, it's a quarter of the people who are here are actual enthusiasts. The rest of them are a bunch of bargain basement tourists. Trust me, okay? And the civilian world, just anecdotally, I live in a small town, okay? I'm the Jew in that small town. And I know the black guy. All right? I do. We get together and compare notes.
And they're no Koreans.
The Mexicans don't like us, you know? And when the first Iron Man film was first trailering, okay, we're very much a part of our community. We live in the town. We're not like the people who just moved there kind of shit. We went native hard. I don't look like this on a normal daily basis. I look like a homeless person usually. Seriously, I have a 4-day beard, hair in every direction, hoodie, black t-shirt. I look like a homeless guy who stole a BMW. And when that Iron Man film first started trailering, the town was like a fucking buzz. Not a single one of those people had any idea that it was a comic book.
Really?
Not a one. No one. Not a one. It was Robert Downey Jr. in a really cool outfit. They don't know. They really don't know.
So in the 80s, you had a string of big hits, American Flag and Batman and all that.
They
And
weren't
then,
big hits.
I mean, you had a pretty successful.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I reached maybe
You had a
40,000
following.
people. I reached 40,000 people in a $250,000 audience.
I read American Flag in the 80s.
Yeah, but a million of your friends didn't. Here, look at it this way. Here's the metrics. Okay, I sold 5 million copies of Star Wars. I sold 45,000 copies of American Flag. What has poisoned my career? Get it? You were saying.
So basically,
By the way, who's 5 minutes up there next panel can we fuck up?
so in the 90s, you moved to the TV industry.
Yeah, because I realized that I had no prospects, that I was never going to be a superstar in comics, never make enough money to actually get this fucking old and live a life that didn't involve cat food casseroles. I have a really pragmatic, look, I'm sitting at my table and I've got a hero initiative bucket, and I've come to referring to it as the grasshopper bucket. Because I'm an ant in a grasshopper business, okay? Does anybody remember that? The old story, the grasshopper and the ant?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm surrounded by guys. I mean, I'm the guy who on the Hero Initiative says, no, fuck it, let him stew in his own juice. He's sowed his own problems. How can you be like? Well, I can tell you exactly how I can be like that. I saw at the age of 35 that I had no prospects, that I had to save my own fucking life and no one was going to help me. I moved to California to get into the movie business. I ended up in the television business, for which I am forever grateful. I never worked on a show I'd watch. I did the best work I could for them. In turn, I now have a pension. I own real estate, and I'm dependent on no one.
So you worked on Viper, right?
I worked on unwatchable shit, and the shit got more unwatchable as it went on. I worked on the worst television show ever made,
What was it?
Earth's Final Conflict.
Oh, that was you.
Oh man, the worst. Oh no, you have no. You can't. It was like a show about. It was like a show on a television show and a novel about bad television. It was so awful, and I was. Oh, what a. There's a novel there, you know. So, but I'm an invisible man in comics. Someone else?
Question for you. I wanted to ask you kind of what your gripes are about the industry, but we've heard a lot of that. So
No! I want that fucker to come back and take 5 more minutes of my
What's some of the good stuff? What should we be reading? What should we know about what's going on out there? Like, what's the good stuff going on right now with major publishers, independents, all that stuff?
I get a really good page rate.
That's good.
I got a whole stack of books when I was at the San Diego convention with people telling me this was good, this was good, this was good. And I look at it and I have no idea what people see that they think is good here.
Yeah.
You know, pages that aren't organized in any way that makes sense graphically, characters that all look alike, characters that don't there's no identity, there's no subjective, or rather, no objective and subjective identification. I don't know. I think we're living in a world of the clothes have no emperor. I'm serious. I'm surrounded by work. I mean, the kind of stuff I like what Ed and Sean are doing with the criminal stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't love it. I like it. You know,
What are your
I mean, there are artists whose work I really like. I love Jose. If comics were a meritocracy, Jose Garcia Lopez would be taken seriously as a monumental Titanic figure.
Oh yeah, that guy's
And
fantastic.
what he is, he's a, you know, instead of the schmucks you deify. You know, I love Eduardo Risso's work. He's an astonishing talent. I mean, the work that he and Brian did on the first 25, 30 issues of 100 Bullets, when Axel was editing the book, because after that it fell off the rails for me. Axel was an astonishing editor on that book. Felt like the work of a single man. There was like twin sons of different brothers. It was an actually astonishing comic book. And Axel was powerful enough to really get the work out of those guys. That demonstrated the value of an editor. Okay. I love Lionel Hughes stuff. He's got such a wacky take on science fiction, on superhero stuff. But they're not stories about anything I care about. You know. I mean I love Simonson's work. Walter is you know somewhat older than I am. But it's still doing the work of a lifetime. But it's not in the service of anything that interests me. You know, I mean, I don't care about Norse gods. I just don't give a shit.
Didn't you and Walt and Jim Starlin and Frank Miller share a studio back in the 70s? Yeah.
It was called Upstart Associates, and we were all young punks, and it was the greatest house, and we had a great time, and we moved on. That's where we hired Dean Haskell got to start working with us as an assistant.
Leave his shirt on.
Leave Dean alone. I mean, Dean will hate me for this. The morning after Dean lost his virginity. I did this in Philly, so he came in like this. I felt like I was watching Afternoon of a Fawn 2.
Or Jack Benny show?
Never. Dino was one of my favorite people in the universe. I adore this cat. So, I don't know. What do you like? Do you like anything? Or you give a shit for anybody else but yourself?
That's the funny part. When I was younger, I read everything. You could ask me anything about comics, like from like 1983 to like 1990. You could ask me anything, and I would tell you what was happening in the comic world. And then I went to college, and then from like 91 to like 96, I didn't read anything. I completely missed the whole Image explosion. So when I came back in 96, I was confused. I was like, what the hell is this shit? You know, this is really popular in town. This is like crap. So when I became a professional, I just don't have the time to read any more comics anymore. So I literally have, at home, I have like a stack of comics. Not even comics, it's mostly a collection of books.
Right.
That are this high that I just haven't had time to read. I mean
every day I listen to Count Basie and Duke Ellington. Every day I look at Alex Toth's work. Every day I look at Wallace Wood's work.
actually, your Alex Toth, I can see a lot of influence on your stuff.
My goal in life, my career careens into the cavern of death. You know, it's happening. I can't stop that shit. The reset button is not available to me. Is to do work that has the graphic sensibility of Alex Toth with the textual excellence of Wallace Wood. I will never achieve the excellence of either one of those men, but that is the primary goal. And that's what I really want out of the work I do. Something else? Come on. You, Xenophobe guy.
So is you're
next up, head guy.
the problem with the Marvel method that the artist does 75-80% of the creating and the writer gets more of the credit, or?
I just think it's lazy shit. It also doesn't demonstrate the understanding of how important pagination is. You know, the writer should be able to tell you what page happens, what page. You know, it's like, for example, you never put a surprise on an odd numbered page, right? Because you turn a spread, there it is. Ooh, you know, so it's a lazy ass method. It was invented specifically because there was one guy working and they had a lot of, Stan invented it, and it was just, just a way to do it. I'm not one of those guys who think Jack did everything and Stan did nothing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that, that it existed solely because Stan had no one that he could depend on to do exactly what he wanted. And Roy saved his ass. Okay. Hat guy.
Frank, your Wonder Woman covers. I mean, I just want to say they're some of the best ever done. You know, they're like all time. I really didn't think they were, offensive at all. I don't think anyone did. And I don't really know how politics works in comics. Were you at all surprised that DC didn't get your back and say we're sticking with you? Because you know as well as I do, they're the ones that are going to sell. And when you're done, when the run's done on them, the Wonder Woman sales are going to drop. They have to. So are you surprised at all they didn't say we're going to keep him or have you at all?
The thing is, it was all a miscommunication. So ultimately, Rucka had it in his contract that he has the final editorial say over my covers, which I did not know at the time when I agreed to do the Wonder Woman covers. So DC was in a really hard place, and ultimately, even though it kind of screwed me, DC made the right call because they honored the contract. So, so I really can't fault DC for backing Rucka on this. So, I mean, when the contract is signed, you should honor the contract. So next time, I learned a lesson. So next time, I'm going to have everything in writing, so I don't have to repeat this mess. So.
They're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, Wonder Woman is a tough character. It really is, because, I mean, when you go back to its earliest inception, it clearly had a whole stream of psychosexual dynamics running through it.
Yeah, the Amazon used to ride kangaroos. They didn't have horses, they rode kangaroos. And they had a kangaroo that could jump from the earth to the moon. I shit you not.
and I remember the Holiday Girls.
Yeah.
Who were like
Yeah.
this lesbian sewing circle, There was just some really crazy shit going on there, and I'm very curious to see what the impact on the market is going to be on with the Gal Gadot picture, because she's certainly the most interesting thing in that movie, but the character still is very, very odd. How do you embrace its psychosexuality? Do you ignore it? Do you dance around it? I don't know what the hell you do with it. I mean, I find writing Superman, Batman, or Batman very difficult. I could not write Superman unless I was literally